Welcome to this ICF Slalom podcast episode, part of the series running until the Paris 2024 Games. We bring you the inside stories from around the globe from the people who make canoe slalom so special. Here's your host, John Gregory.
Thanks for joining me for this latest podcast episode inspired by the Slalom Reunion, which ran alongside the Lee Valley World Championships. It attracted world champions, Olympians, canyon adventurers, John Goodwin, who also went into space. Klaus Lettmann dropped in too. This Slalom Reunion episode is brought to life through conversation as a part of a somewhat personal journey. We have all unique stories about how we have remained part of this wonderful national and international community. For today's episode, I'm joined by Chris Arrowsmith, Alan Edge, Roger Fox, Tony Tickle, Patrick Thorn and Rick Moore. Stay tuned for results from the Slalom Reunion at the end. I start today with Chris Arrowsmith.
So very happy to be with Chris Arrowsmith, a member of the 92 Great Britain Olympic team. But Chris, I mean, one, it was your dad that partly got me into slalom through the Crystal Palace pool slaloms. But then you were sharing stories about the slalom soft and beams. Tell me more.
So Slarsoft was the software that my dad produced when we very first got into electronic timing, and I have very fond memories of sitting in the sitting room, putting meters and 300 meters of tutti wire down the garden and back again, and testing the electronic beams and stuff, and my dad testing his software, trying to configure the software to the Amiga timing and stuff. That he contacted the Amiga and said, "Oh, can we run our slalom on the Amiga timing structure and stuff?" And we ended up having electronics here, there, and everywhere. And I remember that we had a garage that was full of electronic stuff, and I'm not sure that Mum was that happy about what everything was there, but. My dad was just so into trying to get it modernised or get it into structures so that the timing wasn't on people with stopwatches. And I remember him putting beams together in the sitting room so that because you had the beams that hung across the water, we had to test them so that if the wind caught them, did they break the beam, and did we have a piece of wood over the top of it to make it square and it didn't break the beam? And in the end, I think we had some very strong plastic poles with the top connected to it so that it didn't break the beams, and we tested them in the sitting room by walking through it and stuff.
Okay, well, I mean, the legacy of your dad's work kind of then is probably still embedded in seaweed data that we use kind of for all these big races.
Yeah, and my dad he gave or sold his Slarsoft timings to people in Canada and all around the world, and Italian people was like, can we have a copy, can we run it? And he used to change it for the different structures in the different countries. So, but yeah, he was very involved, and he was a cantankerous person now and again, and he would argue with people, but his thoughts were to modernise the sport from stopwatches to electronic timing. And the Slarsoft software that he ran on it, he bought a PC from IBM and ran it on there, and then we had the problems of screens. Do we have one screen? Do we have a screen at the beginning? Do we have a screen at the end of the course? So his thoughts and process on all this was to make it the most modern timing that he could, but also make it good for the paddlers so they could see the results straight away. And yes, we had hundreds and hundreds of meters of tutti wire everywhere, and we had to test them before an event. So before all these events, the premierships, and it was Div 1 then, we didn't have premiership.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, we used to test it in the garden and in the house and everywhere, but Dad was so into it, and he loved the sport. He was part of committees and probably argued with half the committees to make it, maybe move it forward and stuff, but he loved the sport, and he did so much.
Okay, so he was a real trailblazer and pioneer, and yeah, we probably all have a lot to thank him for. He really established, I think, the standard probably for timing.
Yeah, no, and at the time, some people were, change is a big thing to people. So, but he did so much on the timing side, and to write the program that actually ran canoe slaloms, and then change it for different structures in different countries, and that it was just amazing. And I'm very proud of what he did.
So tunny wire, I mean, I've heard of that. We all have. What does it mean?
Tutti wire.
Yeah, is it an abbreviation for something?
No, it's just a tutti wire was what they connected the start beams and the end beams, and then back to the computer where we had an interface on the Amiga timing.
Well, why is it called Tutti?
Tutti, I don't know.
Oh,
I've got to be honest.
Okay.
We used to call it tutti wire. It was just two pieces of wire that went from the finished beams back to the Amiga and did all the timing and stuff. So, but we had boxes of it at home. So
I can imagine, and in the caravan, of course.
Oh, the caravan. Yes, the caravan that we probably bought for 200 quid did it up, and we dragged it to Grand Tully and back, and trying to remember if it would turn up or not, and then it would sit in the Llangollen yard doing the timing and stuff, and I think he was in part. I think he did it in Paddles Up as well, and all that for the BBC as well. So yeah, he did it everywhere, and I was paddling, and I kept my side of paddling, and he was doing everything in the background with my mum and other people that he could grab and help him out.
Okay, well, you pulled a lot of people, including myself, into the sport through Crystal Palace and through the timing. So thank you. Lovely to see you back. Lovely to see you here at Lee Valley.
No, it's been fantastic, and a fantastic results for GB, and long way to continue.
Next, I chatted with one of my role models, Alan Edge.
So I'm with Alan Edge at Lee Valley. Alan, you've always been an immense hero of mine. I think I hurt my back in about '89, and you drew me into coaching, which you were developing at that time. I guess I have two particular memories. So ironic that we're at Lee Valley. So one would be trying to set up, course setup on Bala, I don't know, probably 91. I climbed up a tree, we was trying to string wires across, tree broke, I fall in the river. You remember that?
I do. Of course design, but particularly the mechanics, the garden, the furniture of course design has changed completely with the modern courses. Now it's just they're up all the time, easily movable, and the art of putting training gates up on natural rivers is almost lost to the world. Some people must do it, but we don't do much of it these days.
Okay, my second memory is driving out with you in Bedford Middies. Two of them, if I remember rightly, for selection. That would have been Easter 1992, before the Barcelona Olympics. Yeah, I mean, we did lots of trips, long road trips with trailers.
We did, and it's interesting that with the regulations and the stuff we used to do, it doesn't happen anymore, and quite recently I've come back into my association with working with canoeing, where clearly these days they have the money to pay drivers professionally to drive the boats out and then fly out and drive them back again. So the coaches rarely now drive the boats out.
I guess welcome back to British Canoeing. I believe that you have a link through University of Nottingham and coaching performance up in around that area.
Well, I left the BCU, the old BCU as it was, in 2007 to go and work in other sports. Just needed something different to do, and the skills from running the programme with slalom successfully, there was interest from other sports in how we did it. So I worked with Paralympic sport, and latterly with trampoline as a discipline of gymnastics, working some of the changes that we know worked in canoe slalom, first in Nottingham and now in Lee Valley, and applying those principles. So that's where I've been. But recently, after COVID, I lost my job with trampoline during COVID, and I've come back to work in a couple of small contracts in Nottingham with some coach development, which is what I always did, and also working with the students who come to Nottingham who aren't quite members of the squads but need help to keep them in the sport whilst the students. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that and the challenges of setting courses and standing on riverbanks.
Okay, well, I wouldn't be here today if it weren't for you, kind of all those years ago. I mean, the other kind of piece, Jess Fox, C1 women. Okay, she didn't win gold medal. Mallory won gold. Kim second. But the agility of those athletes, it just is just on a different level. It's just outstanding in my opinion, in terms of their balance more than anything.
It's amazing. The big change while I was away from canoeing is the boats went smaller, and they suddenly found the new design, the 3.5 metre, are much better for women to do a lot of the moves and on a parity with the men, and seeing the development while I was away of the women's C1 class is amazing. And it was such a great day yesterday. Some of the skills of the switching, and I would say my early thoughts are that switching, everybody will be switching within a few years, I would have thought. There'll be some people now who've always been regular, doing it the old way, if you like, not switching, but I think increasingly those who start now, men or women, will switch. And it's for the better of the sport. The switch is part of the technique. Jessica Fox switching as she went through an S-gate yesterday, just quick as a flash, blink and you miss it. Amazing skill.
She basically didn't put her blade in the water as she came into, through and out of that S-gate. I mean, it was all on the edge of the boat. That boat control and agility and balance is just incredible.
Switch is almost part of the technique now, from transfer of the blade from one side to the other, and it's a real skill, and it's improved the sport, undoubtedly.
The next morning, the day of the kayak cross, I chatted alongside the Olympic course with Roger Fox. Hopefully you can hear Roger sufficiently from the event in the background.
Roger, always lovely to see you on the bank of Lee Valley. I think we were probably sitting in a very similar spot back in 2012 watching Jess.
Yeah, up in the gods, high up on the seats. Yeah, I remember that.
Okay, well, it must be amazing also. You were race director for the World Championships in Nottingham back in 1995. It must be wonderful to see a fourth World Championships in the UK.
Indeed. Excellent. I mean, I was here in 2015 as well, which is when the Worlds were here. But 95 was a different experience. Less money, less water, not quite so clean water, but it was more 20 years after Bala, or no, that's not 20, 14 years after Bala. It's a great experience.
Okay, what do you remember at Nottingham Worlds?
Worrying about the lack of water, mainly. And chivvying people around to do things they didn't really want to do.
Okay, so last night we had a slalom reunion here at Lee Valley. Lots of very familiar faces.
Lots of familiar faces and lots of names that I'd recognised very well, but I couldn't put the two together. That's a passing of the years.
Okay, we've all aged a little bit.
Yeah. A little bit.
Okay, so I mean the other thing for me is that you and your wife Jennifer, I would say the reason that I'm doing this slalom podcast, I don't know if I've ever told you this, is because of you two. So I remember doing, we were cutting press releases at the Royal Inn in Llangollen for internationals. I mean, that was what, late 80s probably?
Yeah, I would think so. Because I was part of the organisation for several events at Llangollen, British Open events. One special memory I have is in '92, in the year of the Spanish Olympics, Barcelona Olympics, when Pier Paolo Ferrazzi won gold there. went for a swim at the British Open.
At Llangollen.
At Llangollen, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Well, yeah, those are very great memories. But yeah, I mean, yeah, you and Jennifer encouraged me. I would say, yeah, that's kind of partially why I'm doing what I'm doing now.
No, yeah, great. Nice to know that.
Good tutors, obviously.
Another of my heroes is Tony Tickle.
So I'm with the mighty Tony Tickle. So Tony, we're at Lee Valley. Jess Fox kind of won today in K1 Women. I'm thinking back to 1985. The Telegraph front page, Whitewater bends to its master, I think was a photo you took of Richard.
It is a photograph I took of Richard. It's an interesting story because I was there in '85. Carolyn, my wife, was pregnant at the time, and I was fortunate enough to have a full press pass so I could go side of the river. And Richard, on his first run, totally blew out. And Peter Mickler came down in his second run and was incredible. And what happened was, because it was in Germany, all the press got up and left and ran to the end to take pictures of Peter when he got off the water, which basically meant there were no other press there to photograph Richard coming down. And I was staying because I was working at the time with Graham at Piranha, and I had to get the shot of Richard, and so I got this shot. So and of course Richard smashed it. He was 11 seconds faster than Peter. So what happened was, at that point I was shooting on black and white, and in the press they did the developing. So what happened was, I went into the press room, and the head of press was going like, I'm not allowed to swear, am I really? But basically he said, who's got the photograph of this English guy that's just come down the river and beat the German? And I said, well, I think I've got it. And he went like, so he literally took the film from me and then said, I processed it. It took something in the region of about 3/4 of an hour to an hour. And then what happened was, we got the negative on the light box with an eyeglass, and there is the shot. He said, there's the shot. He said, right, how much do you want? I went, what do you mean? And then another guy pulled me to one side. He said, you're the only one that's got the shot. And I went, right. He said, you can ask whatever you want. So I said, I want $7,000 for it. Right, fine. And then he said, we want exclusive. And this other guy turns around and says, don't give them the exclusive. I went, right, okay. No, you can't have the exclusive. Still $7,000. Boom. And that was that, and that was it. And then the next thing you know, it's on the front page of the Telegraph.
Was that the most you've ever got paid for a photo? Single photo?
Yeah, it is. It is. Particularly a black and white look. Yeah. I think I bought Richard a beer on that day.
Yeah, you should have done. Yeah.
But yeah, that was kind of nice. It was like not quite the beginning of my career as a photographer, and unfortunately, I happened to be in the right place at the right time. And that's
but you made a career of that, in all fairness.
Yeah.
So fast forward, Savage Worlds, 1989. I snuck in as a kind of teenager into the presentation of your photos from those worlds in Llangollen.
Yeah.
Very misty mornings, if you remember. And again, you were right place, right time. I mean, I think again, you were perched on a rock in the middle.
All right, so let's talk about that shot. Okay. The problem you had with the Savage River was the light. That was the problem, because the whole of the Savage River is it's got trees hanging over it, and there are about 3 areas where the sun came at certain times of the day. So it was a case of you had to be in a position to get the shot when it was in the sunlight, because really those are the ones that count. So the dream team were the C1 paddlers. Lud, Bill, Hearn and Kent, if I remember right. And I positioned myself on a rock when the river was not switched on. So I could wade out to this rock, sit on this rock all day and wait to get the shot of the guys coming over into this position. The paddler was paddling straight towards me. The best thing about it was I frustrated every single photographer that was behind me, because my head is in all of their shots. So I got the shot of Ludbill on what people considered at the time the ultimate run, the most amazing run. It's a great picture. I'm very proud of it. It was shot on a Nikon F3 with a 300mm 2.8 using Velvia 50 ASA film. Bill Endicott has it on his fireplace above it, and John considered it to be the best picture he's got. So I'm quite proud of that.
You should be. It's lovely to see you back at Lee Valley.
Oh, it's great being here, John. Thank you very much.
After I recorded the conversation with Tony about the 85 Augsburg Worlds, we realised that the Whitewater Bends to its Master story about Richard Fox was published a few days ahead of the 87 Borg Worlds. Finally asked two of the organisers of the Slalom Reunion, Patrick Thorn and Rick Moore, about what they hoped the event would be and what it became.
Great. Well, I was hoping it was going to be an event where older paddlers would get together and have a lot of fun. There's a lot of enthusiasm for canoe slalom. A lot of people who probably aren't paddling as much as they could be, and it's a big hook to get them engaged with the sport again. And personally, I'd like everyone who was involved during the vintage slalom to actually just turn up on a riverbank once a week and engage a group of youngsters and get them paddling. So if that's what we've managed to encourage, then brilliant. That would be job done for me.
Okay, and what did today turn out to be?
What it turned out to be is that the people that turned up bought all the vintage boats. They were just so enthusiastic about actually having a go, and they helped each other. The younger team of the Sharks, for example, that were doing the judging and all, running up and down the bank, people helped them, and it was just a great friendly atmosphere that's really revolved around this evening. That's been a great event for everybody, and everybody's just been really pleased that they can join and come in and do everything they want to do. So I think that's the key thing. People have had enjoyment, and what Rick pointed out is that we hope people of our age group will take people of the younger age group and still help them, so that slalom keeps on going.
So we've had some fantastic sponsors to get this event off the ground. So Roland have provided a lot of the banners and the stickers, and Pat Thorn Company has provided the mugs and the coasters. All the little things that just remind people that slalom's a sport and it's got a great history and a great future. Let's just try and keep it going.
And I think the other key thing is that we've got a great opportunity that British Canoeing a couple of years ago stepped up and said we have to have these courses both running at the same time, and it would be quite nice that we can fit in the programme another piece of activity to show people what went on in all those years ago. We are running it at the sort of 1980s rules, and people were confused to start with that the main course has got 2 green poles, 2 red poles, but we've got red and green poles combined, and we've got reverse gates and a team gate. But everybody enjoyed taking part, and it was quite interesting that the commentators, Kevin McHugh and that on the other side, told people to come and have a look, and a big crowd did come along the bank, didn't they?
We did. We were lucky that our competition fell during the lunch hour of the main competition, so we did have a big crowd, and people were interested, which was great.
Okay, well, congratulations for doing it. It was lovely to see some very familiar faces that have been, trailblazers in terms of establishing canoe slalom in the UK.
Fantastic, thanks, John. And so many people have just come up to us this evening, especially, just to say thanks. They've enjoyed the day just so much. The nostalgia, the desire to get back in a boat, just experience canoe slalom as it used to be, and find out how difficult it is to turn those long 4-metre boats.
Yeah, the thing is with those boats, we're all out there having a go in them, but today's modern boats, the courses are designed for shorter boats, they spin, they pivot, where some of these old boats are like barges. But in the little videos that we've been showing this evening as well, we've got video back there to 1969, and the boats were absolutely massive, and people still managed to compete in slalom. They had a great enjoyment in it, and I think the key thing that you can enjoy the sport so much and take the seriousness that you're going to move on and maybe become a top competitor, but there's so many more public out there that should engage in slalom, really, and I think that's the key that we should all tried to push really.
Okay, well, thanks for putting this on Lee Valley this weekend.
Thank you very much, and it's been good to see you.
I promised results from the slalom reunion with the 80s rules. Lovely to see the old scorecards again. There were 47 competitors up to the age of 75. C1 men winner was Peter Eckhart, K1 men was Richard Fox, K1 women was Jane Gibson, and C2 was Stephen and Philip Green. Congratulations to Patrick, Rick and Peter Keane and team for bringing this wonderful slalom reunion to fruition. I encourage you to visit the canoeingresults.com website to see the archive they have been building. My only regret from Lee Valley was that the Worlds and Olympic spot selection pulled our attention away from the legacy course. I would so love to have sat, watched and chatted with characters from slalom's past. Each of us is here because of the tireless dedication of others, and for me these include Jim Croft, who I first met at the top of the hill at the opening of Hon Pippon, Tony Arrowsmith, Jennifer Munro, Ian Janes, Brian Fuller, Pete Hanover, and most recently we have lost Roger Annan. Thanks to my guests today, Chris Arrowsmith, Alan Edge, Roger Fox, Tony Tickle, Patrick Thorn and Rick Moore. Love the trip down memory lane, as they say. Thanks to Aidan Johnson for help with sound editing. Our next episode is a season wrap-up with special guests, followed perhaps by a conversation with Guy Diaz-Canida about his new book. See you on the bank. Stay safe.
That's it for now, but please subscribe to the podcasts on Apple Podcasts, Spotify or Audible. And please don't forget to share and leave a review too. In the meantime, keep it fast and clean.